Hi everyone, welcome to Tony Fox Tarot. Thanks for joining me today and great to have you with me. Today we are looking at what you need to see now. We'll break the reading down by diving into your inner world and unfold what you're experiencing in terms of this idea. How do you think and feel about what's going on? What's this situation in terms of how it manifests? What are your circumstances? What are you interacting with in terms of what you need to see? We'll look at the past and the present and the future in terms of where things are going, and we'll also look at guiding information that supports you to get your greatest possible outcome in terms of your potential. Now, lots to get into, and before we get started, if you're interested in becoming a Patreon subscriber, you can go down below and have a look in the description there. There's plenty on that and how you can go about subscribing. Otherwise, if you want to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon. That'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. Please like and share this video where you can, and if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. Now, before you on the screen, we've got two different choices to make between two different symbols, and the idea is to choose a symbol that resonates with you really clearly. It's perfectly fine to choose more than one if it comes through strongly. And remember, this is a general reading, so take what resonates and leave behind anything that doesn't. Now, I'll leave you to be with the symbols to make that choice, and when you're ready, you want to go down below, and there are two different timestamps representing each of these different symbols. If you'd like to go to the one that you've chosen, I will see you in a moment. Hi everyone, welcome to symbol number 1. This is your reading and we're looking at what you need to see today. So let's jump in and have a look. I'm going to start here in the current position, which is now here in the present, before moving into the past and then coming over here to the outcomes, as well as looking at what supports the reading down here. I feel like you're a very outspoken person here with the Lovers and the Knight of Swords. I feel like you give as good as you get. You certainly know how to let people know where you stand when it comes to boundaries within relationships. I don't think that you like to let anybody walk over you or get the better of you in terms of having the last word. I think you're very clearly articulate of yourself in a way that lays down very firm boundaries. I think there's a slight defensiveness here that reads for me in a way that sometimes you get very angry and frustrated with people who try and maybe walk all over you or get the better of you. I just feel here that there is a slightly on guard vibe that reads through in a way where it's better to get in before somebody gets you. I feel more centrally this is around the idea of intimacy and loving relationships. But this idea of other people abusing you or making you feel unsafe or vulnerable is an obstacle to maybe having a loving relationship that feels like it gives you emotional fulfillment. I feel unsafe here with these two cards. I feel like I need to push other people out of the way or to let them know how I think and feel before they do something to me. I get a definite defensiveness here with the Knight of Swords. It's definitely articulating frustration and anger, but it's also a card that looks to the history of the reading in a way that says, maybe I've had to be like this before, that I need to defend my ground, that I need to stay on guard, that I need to make sure that somebody doesn't do something to me in a way that makes me feel hurt or vulnerable. So I choose. Here with the Lovers, it's definitely a card about choices, choosing to put up defenses, choosing to push up against other people in a way that says, I feel like you're coming over me in a way that overwhelms me, for example. I feel like I'm always feeling like I'm on edge here with these two cards, that things don't unfold naturally when it comes to intimacy and love. This could be representative of somebody who is in an abusive relationship or in a relationship where they feel vulnerable, but it also feels like it's central to the idea of love. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in a relationship. It feels to me that this is very much about the choices that I make in order to handle or manage somebody who is trying to get close to me. I just feel here there is an expectation for things to be overwhelming, an expectation where people will try to get the better of me, that maybe somebody will end up being abusive, or that I have to guard myself against other people in a way that stops them from doing something that will harm me. I don't feel like I trust other people with these two cards. I feel like I'm seeing or expecting the worst in this situation in a way that leaves me on edge. I can't relax around this. I can't relax around letting somebody get close to me. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I feel that I have to be very careful because I can become cornered, and that makes me feel like I need to be defensive. I need to fight my way out of this. I wonder whether there has been healthy role models in the idea of love here. This feels to me that this could be historic. Maybe this is what you're seeing around you through the lens of other people who have relationships. Your friends, for example, who might be in abusive relationships or relationships that are mistrustful. Maybe this is how you've been brought up and experienced love within your family, seeing parents or relatives who don't seem to have healthy relationships. This feels very unhealthy to me. I mean, this is beyond defensiveness. There is an expectation that things are going to go really bad when it becomes close with somebody else. So I need to keep the upper hand. I need to push back. Maybe I need to be aggressive towards the other person even. I think centrally to these two cards, I just feel like I don't want to be a victim, so I'm going to make certain choices that takes me out of a vulnerable situation. But I'm also expecting the worst because this is what it is that I've seen in the past. And I get a very defensive, maybe at times aggressive if you're pushed close to the wall. I think you know how to protect yourself, and you know what you need to do to put other people in their place. What I see with these two cards is that you don't want to be a victim, and if that means that you have to be the aggressor, then so be it, because it's better that I get the upper hand. It's also better that I be on guard. The Empress and the Seven of Swords, I feel historically speaking, a maternal figure here with the Empress. That could be your mother or a really important figure in your world growing up that nurtured you. But it also could be the lineage of your maternal side of your family. I just feel there's been a lot of mistrust that's gone before you in a way that has laid down this groundwork of here with the Seven of Swords, of having to keep on guard, of having to watch other people, of having to be suspicious in a way where you can never really fully trust anybody. And the idea of protecting the family, or protecting what you're nurturing in terms of your children, or what is it's gone before you, or it just feels to me there is a kind of a need to kind of watch other people in a way that gets their game, definitely. And maybe learning that you need to play the game in a way where you're getting ahead of other people, understanding how mistrustful they can really be, understanding that people can be devious, deceitful, in a way that leads you to feeling you have to constantly question everybody and their motivations to protect what is yours, whether that's your family, whether that's your belongings, whether that's your dignity, whether that's your lineage. It just feels to me there's this very suspicious inbuilt DNA that comes before you, or has been inbuilt into you in a way where you've watched and observed other people who have actually been through these experiences, and the matters that are really close to your heart. I kind of feel that somebody has taught you this as well. I don't feel this is necessarily just you. This could be about the values that have been passed on to you by people who have been very defensive, very self-protective, of maybe protecting your interests. Maybe you were brought up in a family where there was deviousness going on, where people couldn't be trusted. Other relatives, a father figure perhaps, or it could even be your own mother. I just feel here that this idea around having to protect what is yours is really strong in a way that has really kind of laid down a groundwork of feeling that you need to be very suspicious of people. So this idea of self-protection, of not being able to be vulnerable is deeply embedded in your history. I also feel here with these two cards, the Empress is a deeply maternal card, and I wondered for whether many of you had felt this idea of wanting to have kids, but questioned whether this is something you really want to go through here with the Seven of Swords. Can I trust somebody else to be in a relationship in a way where I actually have children? Or having seen what it is that I actually grew up with, is this something that is really possible, you know? Maybe wanting even to get off the kind of, I guess the get away from or get off that experience that you've actually learned from the past and thinking, could I have children in an unconventional way? You know, the idea of motherhood and nurturing, it kind of, it features very strongly here in a way, but not in a way that's so straightforward. You know, again, maybe you're thinking, having kids isn't a straightforward thing. I don't know if I can trust anybody. Or maybe I need to have kids in an unconventional way because at the end of the day, it's up to me to protect their interests. I don't feel here historically that you feel trusting of other people, but I also feel that the groundwork, the foundations of your childhood and the way that you've been nurtured has been very difficult. Very, it's wised you up. It's made you grow up as a very young person. People have always proven themselves to be shady. Yeah, not wanting to nurture a new world where there are future trust issues. I think ultimately feeling very protective of your inner sanctum, of what you nurture close to your heart, of not wanting to necessarily let anybody in to get close to you in a way that shares anything of you. If I come down here to the Tower and the Two of Wands, I feel like you've come to this point that there is a feeling perhaps that your view of the world through this lens is flawed. Yeah. Understanding that maybe you need to break free of destructive projections that are almost self-fulfilling. I think here with the Lovers and the Knight of Swords, it's about making choices. Maybe the recognition here is that I need to choose to not be defensive. I need to choose a different way of handling this, or I recognize that this is creating obstacles. And coming back down here to the Tower and the Two of Wands, I just feel like you're wanting to break free of this in a way where there is an understanding that holding this point of view is actually it creates a very chaotic picture that leads to a certain demise. Maybe also recognizing that this is salted earth, you know, that the experience that you've had before you in terms of how it is that you've been brought up, but also of how it is that you view the world through this particular lens is one that it's a revelation, you know, that there are, I guess, historic workings and machinations that play into this in a way that has set you up to fail, right? There's an opportunity in time here in a way where you need to accept perhaps that this is ground zero and that you have the choice to be able to kind of rebuild in a way that is much more constructive, a more liberating vision of the future that you can begin to work into that cuts away from this self-destruction in many ways. Knowing that it's up to you, knowing that it's definitely up to you, or that this is a world where it all goes right, and you can be. I think this is about rebuilding trust for me. Yeah. Seeing that things have been burnt to the ground before, understanding that this is a flawed lens, looking back into the past and understanding that things have been inbuilt in you in a way that lead you to certain behavioral patterns that almost attract this particular experience. If I come up here to the Wheel of Fortune and the Two of Cups, I feel all relationships present risk and reward. You know, there's no such thing as a safe option when it comes to being with somebody at an intimate level. rolling the dice is fundamental in any relationship in a way where you need to take risk. I think these two cards definitely serve as advice, but also this is about fate, the wheel of fortune, and how things are going to roll into the next phase of your world. And these are lessons that are going to come up for you in a way that I feel will force you to face the idea that your heart has to be open to attract somebody who is like-hearted. That you need to play the game in a much more positive way that is open to the idea of being in love with somebody else, but also open to trusting people. That you've got to put out or put into what you want in a way where you get that out. This idea of projecting into the experiences that you've had in the past constantly sets you up to fail, but also attract you to certain types of relationships or behaviors that fundamentally keep the wheel turning on the same experience. I feel like this is a phase where you begin to set up an openness, where you begin to give and also receive trustfully. And I don't necessarily mean to say that that has to be about all intimate relationships. I just feel like that's generally speaking. I feel this is about allowing other people to make mistakes that are necessary when it comes to being close. It's about forgiveness from that point of view, where I feel that trust and trust in the flow or the law of attraction is very much about letting things unfold in a much more natural way. It's about getting out of your head and getting more into your heart space in a way that lets down the defensives. I feel from that point of view, this is about taking the fear out of love. It's about taking your defensiveness out of the equation. It's about letting down your guard. It's about taking risks, but also understanding that it's not just about risk, it's about risk and reward, okay? It doesn't have to be one note. It actually can be a much more multi-dimensional experience that, holistically speaking, joins up the dots from how it is that you think to how it is that you feel and what is it you actually experience here. And for me, the outcome here with the Emperor and the Page of Cups is one that is really empowering, because I think that you'll find a new romantic interest that will begin to allow somebody to nurture your love, but also your inner child here with the Page of Cups. The Emperor is definitely a card of nurturing quality. You've definitely got the father here, the paternal instinct, and then you've got the maternal experience here in the past. I feel like this is kind of joining up to an outcome where you find somebody to be with in a way that works through the fear of somebody else's power. The Emperor is definitely a card of dominance and overpowering nature, of strict rules. I kind of feel almost like you're coming back to your inner child, your inner vulnerable state in a way where you surrender into the idea of somebody who actually can have the power over your heart. That this is a safe space to be vulnerable, a safe space to experience the power of somebody else and what they have over you in terms of the idea of love. But I feel these are very clearly articulated boundaries around love and romance. I feel here with the Page of Cups, which is the idea of love, a new experience of love, of finding somebody new that you want to explore that idea with. I feel like a strong, passionate attraction here with these two cards in a way where you'll find the idea or the beginnings of being in love with somebody. But at the same time, it offers a very protective, very guided experience with somebody who you can trust. I feel like this is somebody who is taking you through the steps of a very protected, sacred space to begin to explore what it really means to be vulnerable. That you can open up on an emotional level, that you can reconnect with yourself in a way where you feel the feelings around love, but also feel the passion of what that means. Because before this experience, I don't see any connection here to how it is that you feel. I feel maybe the idea of love has been very separate, not only in terms of how you think and feel, but also maybe physically what you're experiencing. The dots begin to join in a way where I feel there is a much more mature, structured, maybe nurturing approach that keeps this articulated, but also executed in a way where you begin to enjoy what it means to be in love with somebody. I think there's no two ways about it here with you. I get a strong, almost dominant energy in terms of your ability to assert yourself in a way that can be almost aggressive or outright aggressive at times. I think you've had to learn how to be that way, to protect or defend your vulnerability. And even here at the outcome, I still feel that that's actually really true here with the Emperor. I still feel your strength within yourself to be able to stand up and understand where the boundaries lay. I don't think that you'll let anybody push you around, but I just feel like you're leading here with your heart as opposed to your head. So the defensiveness for me is actually dropped in a way where you begin to enjoy the experience. And I feel here with the Emperor, it's a card of confidence. It's a card of strength. But at the same time here with the Page of Cups, it's a vulnerable card. It's a card of immaturity. I kind of feel like you're finding the strength through your inner child to experience this in a way where you begin to find healing within this. I feel it's a readiness to not only find your inner child, but for some of you, maybe to find that you feel the confidence to be with somebody in a way where you can have a child. So if you were feeling maternal here in the beginning, in the past, you're also working through an experience where you find trust within somebody else, trust in another partner to be a parent. For my Patreon followers, if you would like to hold just for a moment, I'll be with you in a second. For everybody else, if you would like to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon, that'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. Please like and share this video where you can. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is I do, and how you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care. Hi everyone, welcome to symbol number 2. This is your reading. We're going to start over here in the past, move through into the present, and then into the outcome with supporting, guiding information down here below. I'm going to start up here with the Emperor and the Four of Cups. Looking to the past, I get a sense here that there's a definite dissatisfaction with the way things have been going in terms of what you've been trying to achieve. Very unhappy about the results of what lays before you. I feel like this has been one letdown after another that's led to a lot of emotional wrangling within yourself in a way that feels at times where you can resent what's happening. Certainly not happy with the way things have been unfolding. Here with the Emperor, I kind of feel like there's been a lot of effort into trying to make things happen in a way where ambition is very fueled, but you're just not hitting the target in terms of getting what it is that you want. And at the same time, I don't feel like you're giving up. You know, like I kind of feel a real sort of resolve here. It's like you know what you want. You know, you're very determined and strong-minded about trying to reach the summit in terms of fulfilling that. And this is very emotional in terms of the quest. I feel like this is something that you're looking to find that will give you happiness and fulfillment. Because I don't feel like you've been having that here with the Four of Cups. I think at times, even though things have been really disappointing, maybe you're feeling really let down. I just, you know, your determination overrides that emotional response in a way that says I need to persist with it, that I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let this get me down. This is very ambitious orientated. I feel like you are a very strong-minded person in terms of achievement. This is rock solid in terms of performance, of trying to get what you want. I think, you know, you're all out, refusing to let any knockbacks tell you that this is not possible. Quite the opposite. And here with the Four of Cups, you know, maybe other people are actually interacting with you in a way and saying, you know, are you sure this is what you want? Is that really achievable? Is that really going to make you happy? I don't think that you've thought twice about this. You know, if anything, I feel like you're at it with a sledgehammer. It's kind of like you're sort of barreling through this experience, and even though there have been pushbacks, knockbacks, setbacks. I just feel that you picked yourself up, brushed yourself off, and kind of, put that all to the side in a way where you've continued on. But I think over time here for me, I feel expectations have slowly begun to sort of, become dumbed down in a way where maybe you're thinking, okay, it's not that it's not possible, but maybe I need to just kind of adjust what I think I'm going to get here. Disappointment starts to turn into a degree of resentment. I do feel at the same time in terms of the process that maybe you're beginning to blame certain things or the situation in a way that feels like it's not fair. You know, maybe other people, maybe the situation, maybe just the way things have been going in terms of not feeling like you're luckily landing on your feet here. It accumulates in a way where it feels a little demoralizing. But overall, I feel very positive here. Like I feel the determination, the passion, the drive, the authority, the sense of, okay, I'm not going to let this get me down. So I think it's more positively attuned than it is negatively. If I come over here to the Wheel of Fortune and the Nine of Swords, I feel like things have definitely changed in the here and now. I don't feel like you're achieving what it is that you actually set out to do, but I feel like fear is set in a way where that's actually become a very dominating feature now. You're thinking maybe that you should be somewhere that you're not, or somewhere that you actually aren't. I feel here with the Wheel of Fortune, this idea of fate handing you a difficult run of things in a way where it's not giving you what you want for the next phase in your life. I just feel like you're really questioning everything in a way that is becoming very negatively focused, very inwardly focused. I think also here this implies risk. It's like, okay, this hasn't happened now. This whatever this is to you, it hasn't manifested. Maybe I thought that this would happen by now, but it hasn't. Like I never thought of things going wrong. I never thought of failing. I never thought that I wouldn't be able to get what it is that I want. It's maybe this is not going to work. Maybe this is not how I thought it was going to be. I feel like here there's a lot of projection going on in a way that is catastrophizing, expecting the worst, thinking the worst, seeing the worst. I kind of feel like almost at a point here now you're going around in circles in your mind in a way that is very negatively attuned, very defeated. I think there's more fear in it for me than there is anything else. So, it's just this ongoing worry, anxiety that's really affecting your health, impacting on your ability to think outside of this experience in any other way that seems to be constructive. I feel like you're really hanging on the edge here in a way where everything feels like it's at great risk. It feels like everything's going to go wrong. I think you're kind of locked into a mindset here where you don't feel like you have control over your circumstances. It's quite polarized. You've gone from a very empowered position of authority and determination, and okay, emotionally at times it's been a bit challenging, but I don't feel like it's gotten the better of you. But by the time you get here to the Wheel of Fortune and the Nine of Swords, I feel this has begun to accumulatively affect you in a way where there are just moments here in your mind where you're really spiraling, feeling stuck on that in a way where there's no control over that thought process. And I think that generates an enormous amount of anxiety and fear and worry about the future. I don't feel like you're able to reflect on the past in a way that constructively puts the pieces together. It feels like your ambition by this point has crashed, and that you've lost any ability to see a constructive way forward. I feel like you've lost your power to affect any change here in a way that maybe you're thinking very negatively. Maybe you're sort of thinking here, maybe I got this all wrong. Nothing positive is forming. I feel like I'm going around in circles. I feel really unwell here psychologically. I feel really unwell. I feel like my mental health really bottomed out, maybe at a really low point in a way where I'm unable to see whether this can climb back up again. I feel like I'm stuck down here. I feel really isolated and alone. It's the fear for me. I think the fear is the overwhelming nature of these two cards, and I feel like that's very stuck in the present in a way that that leaves me thinking that everything is going to be really bad. Like it's this idea of catastrophizing, of expecting the worst, of seeing the worst, of experiencing. I think the thing is that you actually are experiencing this very negative point in your world where you're unable to sort of see how you can get off this experience. So it's gone beyond defeated. Actually, it's sort of plundered you into a mindset that you're not able to think your way out of. If I come over here to Justice and the Nine of Wands, I feel here, like exhausted, battered, bruised. Justice is sort of like a moment of summation of thinking about the totality of everything that's been happening in a way where you recognize that you're really tired, you're really burnt out. Questioning your faith in the process, questioning whether this is even sustainable to achieve. I think you recognize that you put an enormous amount in to try and make this thing happen, to achieve this ambitious ideal. That you've worked really hard, that you've given it 100%. Maybe too much so. I think maybe you recognize that you've gone into overdrive and that you've burnt yourself out a little bit here in a way where you're really questioning whether this is worth fighting for, whether this is really what it is that you want, whether this is right. Here with Justice is a card about justice. I mean, it feels like at this point you're saying, I feel like this is unfair. Like all of my efforts to try and make this happen have collapsed. I feel like maybe you're questioning everything here at this point. Why is this happening to me? What am I doing wrong? Do I have the strength to keep at this? It feels like you're recognizing that this has been a long, hard road. I have to question here, back up here with the Wheel of Fortune and the Nine of Swords, whether like you've become quite recluse here, whether you're withdrawn from other people, whether you're spending a lot of time at home, whether you're staying in bed, kind of covering yourself with the sheets even. I just feel like you're kind of blocking everybody out, blocking everything out, not wanting to have to deal with any more challenges. Taking time to energetically calibrate in a way that just kind of sits this out. I feel like you've given up on everybody, given up on everything. That physically, that you do, this thing of feeling unwell with these two cards is really strong for me in a way where I feel, I don't have energy here with the Nine of Swords. I don't have the capacity to be able to face the world. It's depressive, but it's also fearful, and it feels like everything is high risk, and it takes a lot of energy to deal with this mindset. This idea down here that maybe I've gotten this completely wrong. Maybe I need to be honest with myself about whether this is actually going to work or not. I don't think back here with the Emperor and the Four of Cups that you'd ever considered that things couldn't work out the way that you wanted them to. I don't think that failure was ever in your mindset, or whether it certainly wasn't in your vocabulary. I don't think that never really entered the room, but it certainly has here, in a way where it makes you question everything, and so you're kind of scrutinizing efforts, but also scrutinizing the situation as to whether this is actually balanced in a way that is achievable. I don't necessarily feel down here that you've given up. I still feel like there's energy in the tank. There's still some fire here to burn, but it's a serious contemplation as to whether you can go on at this point in time. I think the main hurdle here is the fear. In terms of a timeline, where is this going to go? If I come over here to the Hierophant and the Page of Swords, I feel like, by not doing anything and just kind of riding this out and hoping for the best and sitting it out, it gets you to a point here where there are no positive outcomes. there is no commitment, there is no contracted outcome. This is a very strong card for commitment and contracts. Here with the Hierophant, Page of Swords is definitely a card of worry, of anticipation. It's a very negatively fueled card that sees things in the context of this reading in a way where the glass is half empty. I think you're really going over your sort of ideas about what you thought was possible and whether you could actually achieve it again here in the future. The Hierophant is also a card of faith, and I kind of feel like you've lost your faith by this point in a way where you just don't feel that this process has actually brought anything to fruition or given you any sustainable outcomes. I feel here that you're looking at the entirety of your past in disbelief, thinking that I got it all wrong, feeling racked with self-doubt and negativity in a way where you just think, oh my gosh, like I never anticipated that I might fail. Yeah. And not feeling here in the future that it's achievable, and not having a constructive mindset that thinks or believes that this is possible or even worthwhile. I feel here that you're just seeing flaws in the entire process from the bottom up, from inside out, from back to front. And I kind of feel like you're sort of very locked into this idea that this is a situation that you got wrong. I don't think by about this point you're thinking outside of the box either here with the Page of Swords. I kind of feel like it's very, very inwardly fixed or focused in a way that doesn't believe, that questions everything. And the more you question it, the more you see flaws in it, the more you see that it's structurally unsound, that you no longer have faith in this. I mean, what could this be? This could be a lot of things to a lot of people. I felt that this could definitely be about the idea of a relationship potential, about whether you're going to get married or be with somebody and be happy with them. It could be about a job in terms of your ambition and trying to succeed in some kind of ambitious aim. It can be whatever it is that it actually feels to you. It's a card. It's certainly a reading about success and finding fulfillment in what is it you do and believing in whether that's actually possible or not. So whatever it is that you're actually thinking that this might be, I just feel like it aligns to how it is that you're thinking and feeling. And if I come down here to the Chariot and the Three of Pentacles, I feel like these two cards have the answers to turn this reading around in a way that gets you the positive outcome that maybe you're just not seeing at this point in time. Because a clear-headed willpower is needed in this situation to be able to succeed. Yeah. A pivot is needed. Self-belief, even an egotistical assumption that this can actually work and that it's your right to be able to assume the success in the situation is needed. I feel here, like you are an incredibly strong person, a very success-orientated person who, when you believe in what it is that you want, you don't give up. However, I think here with the Page of Swords and the Nine of Swords, once that negativity begins to take hold and feels like it gets out of control, the struggle becomes with your process of how you think. I feel down here a balanced head on your shoulders. To keep the focus is what is needed to get out of this negative thinking, to assume the right to be triumphant, not to let failure enter the room in a way where it's even an option. I feel like you're overthinking things here to the point where you're turning around the positive and making it into an utter negative and believing that that's actually going to be the outcome. I think you need to close the door on the fear and stop second guessing yourself. I don't feel that you've got this wrong. I have to say, I think that you can be your own worst enemy. I think that you can turn the daggers on yourself in a way where you can be very self-defeating. I think that it can be very hard to get out of that mindset once it takes control. But for me, this isn't so much about thinking the outcome, it's about believing the outcome. I feel here your emotional disappointment, your resentment, your fear, these are the issues, yeah? And the only way you're going to turn that around is actually by believing or even assuming the power to be able to get what it is that you want here. I think that there have been setbacks, there have been glitches, there has been a lot of negativity here to deal with, but I don't feel that that's any reason to be able to give up on what it is that you actually really want at the same time. And I think that you have to be very careful about how you think things through and how that affects your emotions and how that actually draws down on your energy, because your energy is very depleted here. Yeah. Some healing needs to take place by not thinking. Yeah. And turning around the mindset. And actually here with the Chariot, it's a card of precise willpower. It's not second guessing itself. It's manifestation at its best. I think that you can have whatever you want here, but you have to believe that that's so. For my Patreon followers, if you would like to hold for a moment, I will see you in a moment. For everybody else, if you would like to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon to look for notifications for any future things that I post. Please like and share this video where you can. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon subscriber, please go down below and have a look in the description there. There's plenty of information on that. Thanks very much and take care.